to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch-Hunter. Today we have as our special guest Amanda Snider, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, the Deputy Athletic Director at Broken Arrow High School in Oklahoma. Welcome to the podcast, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. So happy we were able to connect.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our international audience where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Okay, here we go. So I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been born and raised in Tulsa, lived in Oklahoma my whole life, went to Union High School and was very blessed to be able to play soccer, run track, and I was on the POM squad, not to be confused with bomb squad. A lot of people are like, what is that? So I was on the POM squad, and we obviously it was a big part of my life. Sports has always been a part of my life. My family, I come from educators, coaches, principals, and man, I just loved being a part of an incredible athletic program at Union High School. From there, I continued my passion for dance at the University of Oklahoma and was a member of the University of Oklahoma POM squad for 4 years from 2000 to 2004. Very blessed to be a part of the just an incredible time of Oklahoma football, Oklahoma basketball. And so learned a lot about what it really meant to be a student athlete, high expectations, commitment, overcoming adversity and putting your grades first. And so didn't really know at the time that I wanted to be a coach or an AD. And so I went, pathway was journalism. So my degree is actually in journalism advertising, and really became passionate about that too. I love writing. I love all the things related to public relations and communications, and always had that internal feeling that I want to coach. I just don't really know how to get started. So focused on getting my degree. Post college, had an internship, a marketing internship with a architecture firm, and began working eventually at Tulsa People magazine. While I was working there, I knew I was needing to fulfill my calling, which is to be a coach. And so I started working with a middle school team at Edison Middle School, coached 6th and 7th grade teams, went on from there to go back to my alma mater at Union and began coaching there, where I was under incredible leadership of Emily Barkley, who is still the AD at Union High School. So everything kind of started to form with this whole AD pathway. So coaching, I'm still working in journalism. However, coaching's starting to really take over my world. It's my passion. I love working with kids. I love teaching. I love being active. So from there, kind of one thing led to another. So now I'm working at Union. Then University of Tulsa had an opening. I volunteered there for a year before it eventually became a full-time job. Then it led on to becoming a director role at the University of Tulsa. So having that experience at the University of Tulsa, being the head coach over the POM, the co-ed cheer, and the mascot program, while also helping just the athletic department with community relations, really just that was my world, is my passion, my wheelhouse. And I didn't even realize at the time that, God had big plans for me. And I'd always connected with ADs that I knew, and just but I really just thought I'd be a head coach the rest of my life. So when I got the call about this opportunity at Broken Arrow, I just began to go, oh my gosh, this is my moment. I'll do whatever it takes, whatever you need me to do. I know my background isn't, I don't have a master's degree in athletic administration. I know I wasn't, I don't check off all the boxes that are the normal pathway to being an AD. But I'll tell you one thing is that I knew I loved working with athletes. I understand the athletic department role. Leadership is something I'm striving to continually always evolve and become better at. And I'm just, again, my passion is kids. It goes back to that. So had this opportunity to come here in 2019, and I left a few coaching jobs because I had to have 4 or 5 coaching jobs to equal one AD job. So it's just been, that's my pathway here to Broken Arrow. I absolutely love this side of things. I'm not around kids a whole lot. But now that I'm in this role, I just understand how important it is that we are making an impact behind the scenes. Even though a lot of people don't see what we do every day, it still goes back to I'm helping athletes, I'm helping families, I'm helping our staff. And so just very blessed to be here. Again, I don't have just the straightforward pathway that most normal people do to becoming an AD, but so grateful to be here.
That is great. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you a couple of follow-ups. The first one being, you get to Broken Arrow and obviously work with Dustin Smith in 2019, and no sooner do you get the job than you have COVID. So how is that? Are you
Literally.
brand new to the job and all of a sudden you have COVID?
You nailed it. So I got here January, February, March. That was 3 months on the job as an assistant AD, just learning the ropes, just even figuring out where things are here at Broken Arrow. Fortunately, I had 2 incredible leaders, Steve Dunn, who was the AD at the time, and Darren Melton, who was the associate AD at the time. 2 people who mean the world to me and have impacted my life more than they will ever know. It was just a moment of, okay, we don't have time to really think about what's happening. It's just go. And so it was just creating safe environment, following all the guidelines, looking back going, how did we make it through that? I don't know. And I remember at the NIAAA, the NADC, we had to wear masks and it was crazy. Very thankful to be past all that because that was a really hard time in the sports world.
Sure, sure. The second follow-up is this, and I realize by the time this airs, this news will probably be a month old. But comment about the OU victory over Alabama last weekend.
Hey, my only comment is that was some Sooner magic right there. And I'm a diehard OU fan, and Dr. Smith is not a big OU fan, so I'm going to say go Sooners if he's listening to this. But you know what? It was amazing, and I'm just so proud of them, and I hope they can continue the success under Venables.
Perfect. Let me ask you this. Did you have a chance as a young woman to participate in soccer and track and other sports before you got to high school?
When I was growing up, I did all the sports. Soccer was the big one, but my dad was a basketball coach. And so, excuse me, so I was always around sports playing, whether it was with my family, cousins, or whether it was club or even rec. Any opportunity I had with church leagues, it was just getting involved. I always loved being on a team. That's something that I definitely miss in my adult life is being a part of a team. So now you just have to look at it as your work team, but it's a little different when you're out there playing a sport. Always loved soccer. I miss it. Loved running, still continue to run throughout my adulthood. And, those are just the things that you can take with you forever. And just thankful that I had opportunities like that growing up. And even more so just being a part of, a dance team, a pom squad, and just being able to, excel at that at high school, but also even in college.
So talk a little bit more about that because I think you may be the first guest that I've had on that they've played all sorts of sports, but I'm not sure I've had a collegiate dancer on. So talk about the demands of that
Ooh,
and
there was a
then
lot of demands.
talk about the demands and then talk about because in those early 2000s, Oklahoma had some pretty good teams. So talk about that connection also a little bit more than you did before.
It was it's so strange because I went, I tried out for backstory is high school my coach at the time, Amy Kalmus, came up to me and she was like, "Hey, I really think you should try out for OU Palm." I was planning to try out for OSU, Oklahoma State, and perhaps Arkansas. And anyways, long story short, she handed me a sticky note and said, "OU Palm tryouts, April something, 2000, whatever the date was." I'm like, okay, I'll just go try out. And that changed the course of my life for, the next 4 years. I did not realize going into it what the demands were. I mean, it's, you're treated just like a student athlete. And that's what I'm so thankful for OU, is because they treated the cheer and the palm just like they would any other team, any other sport. It was obviously a big part of a legacy program. And so the expectation was, you're committed. You are going to give your heart and soul every single day. We practice Monday through Friday, sometimes 6 a.m., sometimes noon, and even late night practices going into nationals. You've got to focus on your academics. In college, nobody's helping you really. So I think it just goes back to, you're kind of thrown into this world of, okay, your expectations from high school, yes, they're high, but in college, it's even more high. And you don't get to go home for holidays. You don't get to, leave early from the game. You are committed. You're a vital part of the pageantry of football and basketball. Little did I know going through 2000, 2004 at OU would be so, they had such success in all the sports. But I just was blessed to be able to, tag along with the teams and go to the national championship and go to the Big 12 and go to bowl games, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl. It was just, the memories I have are incredible. There were definitely times where I was like, do I want to try out again for next year? And the answer was always yes, because you build friendships, you're just part of something bigger than yourself, so to speak. And there's not a part of me that regrets it. You miss out on a lot of the fun times, with your sorority or your friends or whatever. But you know what? The lifelong lessons I received, and then that passion for, okay, I love working with little kids or girls, and I want to coach. And that was kind of where it started to form. When we would do youth clinics, I started going, man, I could really do this, like every year, every week, and it just became something that was inside of me that it sparked a flame of passion. And so I'm just so glad that I was able to be a part of the OU Palm squad for 4 years.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's have you talk for a moment about some of the leaders and mentors that you had in your life that made a difference for you.
Well, first and foremost, I have to thank my grandparents, who obviously are no longer living, but they raised me. So was very close with my dad and my mom, but my grandparents raised me. And so I had 2 people who poured their heart into my life and never let me down. They were always there for me. They pushed me to be better. They signed me up whatever I needed. I need new shin guards. Okay, you got it. So I was so thankful to have, now knowing, what was really going on with family life, some issues, but just having the stability from incredible grandparents. They're my why I'm here today. On the other hand, I'm also thankful for my dad, who was caught up in the coaching world and very busy. And, he was always stressed out and, didn't really want me to go into coaching when I told him, but you know what, it was just part of who I am, and part of the family that I was in. So, those are the family members that I want to thank. And then moving on, obviously Emily Barclay, she's the reason why, for me, I was a coach underneath her she was the AD at Union when I was coaching, and just her kindness and her consistency with that program is just, she's the reason. She's kind of paved the way for so many other female athletic directors. Here at Broken Arrow, I came in with a few people that I knew, but our superintendent, Mr. Chuck Perry, who believed in me, he at one point had been at Union, and I'm just glad that he remembered me. And so he's poured into athletic program here, somebody I aspire to be like. And Mr. Steve Dunn, who's now our associate superintendent, he was the AD here when I first got to Broken Arrow, and just the amount of passion he shared with me for Broken Arrow. I'm just a transplant here, but he made me feel like family from the beginning. For female ADs, they always say, I just want a seat at the table. I got that and so much more here at Broken Arrow. It's unbelievable. And so I know not everybody's experience is like that. And I remember Steve saying, I don't want her to just be cheer and palm. It's all the sports. It's more than that. It goes deeper than that. So I'm just thankful he believed in me. And then Darren Melton, who is the associate, we were kind of a team. And so Darren is somebody I consider a mentor and a role model. I continue to have coffee with him. We try to, every now and then, monthly if we can, but we all get busy. He's a superintendent now, so everybody's lives have sped up and it's crazy, but just connecting with those people, Dr. Smith as our boss and our leader, I mean, no one more family oriented that you could possibly work with. It's about how can I get my employees home quicker? Because, in athletics, we're here all the time. And so I have a 22-month-old. And so it's just nice that he understands kind of just the timing of my life. And just he has such a grateful heart. Servant leadership, that's his mantra. That's what he preaches. And so, now he's the NIAAA president. And so we're very fortunate to work with him. So many people, there's other female ADs that I aspire to be like. Kate Creekmore at Bixby, paving the way. They're leading the program in so many different areas, and just she's incredible. There's so many people, but just those are a few that come to mind, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a lot of people.
Well, let me ask you this out of order then. This was a question for later, and I always have to preface this question so it doesn't sound too sexist, but you and I both know that the athletic director world is dominated by males, and over the last few years and the decade and a half, a lot more females. So you talked about having a seat at the table, but talk about being a successful female AD in Oklahoma.
I will tell you, when I first took the role, I'd been around athletic departments and head coaches meetings and around men and all the uncles that had an impact on my life. I've been around it. When you're a female, it's different because sometimes you feel a little bit imposter syndrome, like I shouldn't be here. I didn't coach football. I don't know, but you do know. And so I would tell every girl out there who wants to be an athletic director, it is absolutely possible to be here, be a part of a program and have a seat at the table and impact coaches and impact kids and help families. And, that's the misconception that I had when I first took the role. But the more experience you get and the more you apply yourself and better yourself. And, that's why I'm in grad school right now. I'm 43 and I'm back in grad school because I wish I would have done it sooner, but life, you take different pathways. And now I'm like, okay, I've got the CMAA. Wonderful. That was a very great process to go through with the NIAAA. That was one of the first things I did was, NIAAA, I need to get going on this. I need to be credible because the more, not about accolades or achievements, but just the more knowledge and education you can give yourself, the better, no matter how long you've been an AD. And then listen, I've learned in this job, listen more, talk less, listen to those who have done this a long time, because 9 times out of 10, they've got great advice to give you. And just know you're not alone, because sometimes you do feel alone in these jobs. You're like, I'm fretting over this major thing, but just know you've got to help build your team up so that you can trust in these people. And, as a female AD, your voice matters. And it's more, I think for me, it was just my mentality of, I don't know if they believe in what I'm saying, or should I be here? I don't know, but it is, be confident in who you are. You are chosen for a reason. And for those who want to get into the industry, just continue to network and, again, keep educating yourself, keep coaching, grow where you're planted. Cause I really wasn't looking to go anywhere. And I do believe it's all about timing. So I think that that's something that's helped me, is just knowing there's always an opportunity. You have to believe in yourself and you have to do little things leading up to that moment so that you are prepared when that moment, the opportunity offers itself.
Great insight. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you a little bit of a personal question here, Amanda. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
Wow. That's funny. You sent me some of these questions. The biggest disappointment in life, honestly, right now is why didn't I just get my grad degree when I was right out of college when I knew I should have? Because right now, I'm trying to work and juggle. No, I mean,
Right.
there's not a failure. There was one thing in this job that I really regret. And there was one time very early on in this role, we had a very disgruntled parent. It was me, a head coach, and a parent. And I don't think I was prepared for the level of just the animosity. And I wish looking back, I would have said immediately, this meeting is adjourned, this meeting is over, we are done. But the kind of just was a bad meeting, and it put my coach in a bad spot. I've learned from that. It's not about being unkind or harsh with people. It's just about you're as an AD, you're supporting your coaches, and it's just you're helping navigate really hard conversations sometimes. And so I wish in that moment somebody would have said, "Hey, if this goes south, just end it." And now
Mm.
I know can't go back and change things, but you live and learn. And the more meetings you have, the better you get at those type of conversations. I don't have any really regrets in life other than just not believing in myself more and not thinking bigger and dreaming bigger.
Appreciate that insight. Let's have you talk about the job of athletic administration. You've been at Broken Arrow 2019, so close to 6 years. How has it changed since you first started?
I think we are now in a phase of athletic administration where kids are able to transfer. We want families to come to Broken Arrow. So yes, it's still the same as it was, but now it's about, well, what sets us apart from other high schools? What are we doing that's advancing athletes further than other schools? How are we promoting our athletes more than other schools? And so I think the role, because now that I'm doing the compliance and eligibility, I think it's not about what are we giving athletes. It's a different era where it's even in high school, the trickle down effect of the NIL, it has reached us now. And so I think we all have to remember our calling and remember that we are education based athletics, but this does throw us for a little bit of a loop. That everything still feels the same, but we're all growing and evolving. I hear all the time kids have changed and this and that. I really don't think it is that. I think that they're just given so many options and they just know about things because of this. And I think it's our job to be the strong and stable mentality. You can still do things the right way, and you can still attract kids to come to your school, because here in Oklahoma, we have a transfer policy. So it's not about recruiting. It's not about cheating. It's not about, I can give you this or we promise you that. It's just about, we want to be a great school for families that they choose us. So academics are still the most important. Student first, athlete second. So I believe it's a time that you have to remain strong and steady, continue to instill those mentality to your coaches about how are you talking to your kids? What are we telling them? Because they are the inner voice for those athletes. And so again, it goes back to, if you do all the little things right, everything will work out better for your team, for your success. And we can still do all the other things like the NIL. We can still offer the transfer opportunities, but we'll do things the right way and not get too ahead of ourselves and just try to enjoy the moment, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Let's delve for a minute into your journey with the OIAAA and the NIAAA. How did you got the job? Obviously, you heard about the OIAAA and then the NIAAA. How did all that go? Describe that for our audience.
Well, I'll tell you, the very first thing that I heard of when I took this job was getting going with becoming certified RAA, then it was CAA, then CMAA, which I wasn't even thinking about CMAA at that time, but just getting the first RAA and those first three initial classes through the NIAAA was crucial. And you can do it at your own pace. So my first opportunity was through the NIAAA. Then of course, OIAAA is, our state. And so we have the OADC in the summertime. I've had an incredible opportunity to speak at those a couple of times. And even last year being able to speak at the NADC. And both organizations, work simultaneously together. Great leaders on both of those boards, great leaders that you could call right now if you had anything you need, if you need pathway for this, or if I need advice. So there's just a lot of opportunity in both of those organizations. One's local, one's national. But again, couldn't imagine being an AD and not being plugged in or connected to those.
Perfect. Talk about, you mentioned that you spoke at last year's conference in Austin. So talk about that for a moment.
That was, Michelle York and I spoke about Title IX and just overcoming obstacles and how far we've come, yet not really that far. I mean, in terms of just some little things that have happened in terms of Title IX, but just again, it's about that education piece. It's about noting when, big things happen, with the NCAA and how they corrected the moment of weakness with the women's basketball. They gave them a few weights versus the whole weight room for the men. And so it's just the disparities that we still have to note. And the more we talk about them, the more we can get better. And the more we share our stories as female ADs or as head coaches, National Girls and Women in Sports Day, we kind of celebrated that last year here at Broken Arrow. And I want to continue to make that a big deal, because it is a big deal to be a female athlete. It is a big deal to be a head coach. And I want more coaches that are female to start working for Broken Arrow or start working in general in coaching. And so I think it's just about, sometimes you have to get up there and share your story and talk about things that are a little uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, Title IX is ever evolving, and it's something we always have to continue to look back on, but also note when things can be corrected and fixed so that we don't do it again in the future.
Great insight. Let's talk for a moment now. And I call them Oklahoma legends. They've all been on the podcast along with you now. But you mentioned Emily Barkley earlier. I assume you know Stephanie Blackwell and, of course,
Yes.
Dustin. Now, my question is, can I still call him Dustin, or do I have to call him Doctor?
I have to, I don't know. I cannot call him Dustin. It's Dr. Smith. I can't. He makes fun of me, but he's Dr. Smith to me. But at the end of the day, he's Dustin Smith, and he's the most down to earth person you'll meet.
Talk about those three people, because they're along with Mike Snider, who was on the board with me years and years ago. Those are the people I know in Oklahoma. So talk about the relationships with those people.
Those three people in particular, I mean, as I mentioned, Emily Barkley, number one, I've seen her since I was in 8th grade, 9th grade, because she was also a union grad. And so when I was playing soccer and seeing Emily as a volunteer working in the athletic department, she was just a standout person then as a role model. And, then post-college, coming back to work at Union and seeing how incredible it was to be back at my home school site and just back where I belong, and loved being there. Again, her leadership is something that is, she exudes grace, humility, servant leader. She doesn't even have to say it. We just know it. It's that the expectation is high, the standard is high. And so she's set the standard for female ADs in all of Oklahoma. And just, again, she's paved the way for so many. Stephanie Blackwell, Stephanie and I, what we have in common a lot is the cheer background. So I coached cheer at her alma mater at University of Tulsa. Although my background isn't cheer, I still coached it for 13 years. So we have a lot in common because we both love the spirit world, and we see how hard those athletes work. And that, Stephanie brought into Oklahoma the stunt, which is Stunt the Sport. It's for cheer. It's actually a literal sport. They're trying to make it an NCAA sport. And it just brings opportunity for young women to be a part of a sport and cheerleading and show off their skills, because it takes an incredible amount of skill set to be a cheerleader. And so we have a lot in common. She's a legend. just like Emily, and now they work together at Union. And she helped me through the CMAA process. So she kind of did the class, the 799, I believe is what it was, to get, you have to take that class before you do the I did the QPA project. So
Sure.
that was a doozy. Yeah. And then obviously Dr. Smith, legend in and of itself, from Arkansas, moved him here to oversee around 1,400 athletes and over 150 coaches, and a massive high school. And it's like he's always been here. Again, couldn't imagine anyone else in that role, and he's done such a great job reminding our staff that family first and take care of you. And we talk about all the time wellness checks we do with our coaches, and that was something new to me, because I'm kind of an old mentality of, you just get it done and you just quit, be tough. I'm a be tough mentality. And Dr. Smith has reminded me that sometimes we're not okay. And it's okay that we check on our coaches and we find out what's going on in their life. And so that's been a big part of what we do up here. Is we want our coaches to know we love and care about them as individuals, and we want them to be successful. So always learning from him, always learning from other ADs too in the area who are doing great things. And so there's just some incredible people, and I'm very blessed to be where I'm at.
Let me ask you a little bit of a follow-up. You did mention the QPA, and of course, you may not be aware, but I've been involved with the QPA since the beginning. So I'm interested in your take. Share it with our audience.
Okay.
It's not an easy thing, but share the satisfaction and the frustration of going through that process.
Well, if it's any indication, I stopped grad school so I could work on it, because it became like a grad school project. It was like even more so than anything I've had to do thus far, post bachelor's degree. And so the part that's the hardest was for me is getting going. How do you want to format your QPA project? Because you're telling your story about your high school, about your school, wherever you're at. And it's formatting, it's putting in factual proof that you've done all of these things. And it's like you have to organize your thought process and then keep it consistent throughout the whole process. And, there's people you reach out to. And so sometimes you're on other people's timing. It's just about getting in there and sticking with it, and don't give up, because you're going to go through a lot of darkness, and then all of a sudden you're going to see a little light, and then it gets a little bit, you're almost done, but it's so worth doing, because there were many areas that we did not have a lot in. And so it was a good reflection to go, wow, we need to fix this. We need to have this policy or this guideline in place. Oh, we need to update our website, whatever it might be. You will get better from this process. It will be taxing and exhausting, but it's so worth it. And once you do it, you've got a blueprint for success.
Thank you for sharing that. What's the favorite part of your job, Amanda?
Favorite part of my job is when I get to go watch kids compete, and knowing that, we've hopefully helped provide a great experience for all of our athletes, but just that we were a small part of the process. And so again, my calling is kids. That I would go back to be a coach right now if I could. It's my passion in life. So that's my favorite part, is seeing them succeed, seeing them overcome adversity, seeing our athletes succeed in the classroom, just seeing when they're great teammates and when they leave Broken Arrow and do big things in college or even post college. I think that for me is the best part of the job. Tomorrow we have a month, actually 4 times a semester, we meet with our student athlete leadership council. And I'm blessed that I get to oversee that, because then I really do get to be around athletes again and connect. So that kind of keeps me going. It reminds me that really nothing else matters. It's about the kids. And so we can overthink and make everything way more complicated than it needs to be, but we're dealing with children's lives, and our job as ADs is to make it the best environment, the best interscholastic high school program that you can. And that's my goal, is to just keep doing that. and just to be a person that these kids can count on, and to be a consistent person in their life. Whether they see me at the games, they probably don't know who I am, but just knowing that, yeah, I remember her, and I just want to keep showing up for them every day. When things get hard or challenging, I just remember that we're impacting lives, and so everything will be okay. The moments where things feel like they're falling apart or the issue is so big, it's usually never too big that it doesn't get better. At least that's my experience.
Well said. Let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first being this: what are your 2 suggestions for a brand new athletic administrator and they need to follow Amanda's suggestions in order to be a success? What would those 2 suggestions be?
I wrote a couple down. I thought that was a really good question, and I wanted to get it right. Kind of what I already mentioned was, number one is focus on student athlete experience over everything. It's all, yes, policies are important, but put people first, build relationships first. Really prioritize communication, whether it's written or verbal or in person. Make sure you're prioritizing that. It's important as an AD to have excellent communication skills and respond to people, follow up with people, check back, and have great follow through. Be consistent, and hold yourself to a higher standard, personally and professionally. But again, like I mentioned a moment ago, don't get too overwhelmed. Just take it one step at a time, because the job can become very overwhelming if you're not careful. Someone told me right before I took this job, be careful, this job can eat you alive. And I was like, what do they mean? And now I know it can eat you alive. So just take a step back sometimes, go for a walk, take care of you. So I guess maybe that's my 4th piece of advice, is take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, because again, you are around people and you are impacting people's lives, and you are supposed to inspire and be the strong and steady. So it's important that we as ADs challenge ourselves to do something for ourselves each day as well, so that we can give back even more to those around us.
Great advice. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll finish with this. Amanda, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
You asked me all the questions. The only question would be, my family. So obviously my children, Jackson's 11 and Press is 22 months. And so we're a growing family. Zach, my husband, is a awesome former athlete, and just, thankful for his unwavering love for me and all the craziness that this role takes, and just thankful for him. So no other questions. You nailed it, everything. I hope I answered all the questions. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I feel, again, every day I'm like, am I really here? Am I really an AD? Because I remember wanting that, but now it's here. And so anybody out there who's considering getting in this role, it's the greatest, most rewarding job you could ever have. Frustrating at times for sure, and overwhelming, but it's incredibly rewarding and worth it, for anyone out there that wants to do it. And I'm always here to connect with other ADs, any questions. And so again, just thank you so much for having me.
And thank you. Thanks for mentioning your husband and your children.
Yeah,
On
kind of
that
forgot
note,
about him.
that wraps up this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Amanda Snider, a certified master athletic administrator, the deputy director of athletics at Broken Arrow High School in Oklahoma. Amanda, thanks again for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.